That's okay. Sarah.
Can't stay away. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Alright. We will call the Lake County Planning Commission to order at 4:04 PM on January 27th. Roll call, Chair Lind. Mr. Stevens.
Here.
Mr. Clark Barrow.
Here.
Mr. Ruffalo.
Here.
Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Jurek. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Edwards here. Lake County, roll call of county commissioners. Commissioner Tharp.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Lee. And Commissioner Bullock.
Here.
Thank you. Any changes or additions to the agenda for tonight?
Typically, we do the board appointments at the first meeting. If you want to wait until you have all of your members present to do that, we could go ahead and just use past appointments for this and do the next time if you want, or if you wanna go ahead and vote on your membership. So that would be chair, vice chair, and secretary, so up to planning commission and what you would like to do this evening, if you'd like to go ahead and vote on those positions, or if you'd like to wait till next meeting.
Who is our secretary currently?
Our secretary currently, without it in front of me, I think it's you, Joey.
David.
Oh, I'm
No,
vice.
he's
She's
vice.
right?
He's vice, oh,
Oh,
yeah, I think it's David. It's
Okay,
David.
very good, very good.
David is secretary, you're vice chair, and Heather's chair currently, or for the past, yeah.
Commissioners, is there anyone who'd like to stand for a position they don't currently hold? Or is there a commissioner who holds a position that they would prefer to pass that position on? Heather isn't here to deny it, so bless you, I would put Heather up for chair.
And she said she's about 10 minutes, she said, so sorry, she's running a couple minutes late, it'll be about 10 minutes and she'll be here.
Would it be better for us to wait then?
Do you wanna wait to do nominations?
Why don't we do that? If
after.
she's gonna be here, then that would be easy.
Sure, we could do that after updates and, yeah.
That sounds great. That way at least it's one less thing on next time's agenda.
There we go, sounds great.
Any other changes or additions to the agenda other than commission seats or commission positions?
Oh, I'm so sorry, no changes or additions to the agenda. I'm sorry, I was just.
No, it's quite all right. I can't
Little people in
remember,
the hall,
I can't remember in this meeting if we vote to approve the agenda.
we do.
Alright, all in favor of tonight's agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, agenda is moved. And approval of minutes for January 13th. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes? May I get a motion to approve the minutes for January 13th?
A motion to approve the minutes of January 13th.
I'll second that.
Very good. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Minutes pass. And updates by staff?
Great. So one of the things that I wanna highlight for everyone is the upcoming events next week for the One Community Project. So just please keep in mind that this is the lead-in, we're doing the public, values exercise to create that shared vision that'll go into the comprehensive plan. And a quick reminder to everyone that it is the planning commission's that is authorized with the development and adoption of our new comprehensive plan. So very important that you're participating in this preparatory step, as well as we're gonna get land use heavy as we get into our actual comp plan update. Joey and Heather are part of the project management team for the One Community Project. But if you can mark your calendars and be at least one of next week's events, we send out calendar reminders, I believe. But just as a quick reminder, the 4th is the Spanish language event at the Full Circle from 6 to 8. And the 5th is at the Southern Fire Station from 6 to 8. And the 6th is at Freight from 6 to 8. There will be dinner served at each one of these, childcare and interpretation at the one at Freight. It'll be a great opportunity for you to be out in the community and kind of hear what that values conversation comments are. There's a lot of common themes that we're hearing. We've been out in, Melissa and I have been presenting in small groups at different settings and going through the values exercise. CC has put out drop-off boxes throughout town. You can give them I think the whole rundown is on our website, I think, but just a couple quick places that they're at.
So their drop box is at, off the top of my head, 2 places at CMC, the library, post office, Mountain View Village, let's see. City Hall, in our office, and the market on Poplar, I can't think of the name of it, but it's there's a market on Poplar that there's a drop box, and there's maybe another 1 or 2 somewhere else that I can't think of right now, but.
What's that?
The little Mercado.
Yes, exactly.
Across
No.
from.
Oh, yeah,
King
yeah,
Tut
sure.
Magic.
Yes.
That's
You
great.
know,
That's called,
I don't know.
but yes, there's one there too.
The brown building.
Yes. So we've got drop boxes and the values sheets out in all of those locations. Of course, we've got the One Community Project website. It's got a lot of good information, but being present as the planning commission at one of those events or a member of the planning commission is real important. So please mark your calendars and
It'll be the same agenda at each event,
Yeah, so at
Okay,
the
just
beginning, you
different
might,
potential audiences.
right, a little bit different audience, you may hear some different information at each of these, so come as often as you'd like, but if you could at least be at one, that would be great. We will be at community coffee, that happens on Wednesday mornings at 8 o'clock. And then there'll be a couple locations, if you go to the website on Harrison Avenue, I think we'll be at Before and After and the Silver Llama, just letting people kind of come in and have conversations too, during that week. So, next week is really our big week of, amping up for the, vision part of the preparatory step of leading into the comprehensive plan. So really exciting. We're gonna talk tonight in new business about some upcoming code amendments that we'd like to make sure that we have buy-in on. And anything else that Melissa or Susie would like to add about things that are happening in the department? I did a pretty robust update last time that we were all together. We talked about the transit planning that's going on, that they'll be in Mountain View Village East and West on February 4th. So the night of the Spanish language event, we will have an event, with an engagement with a consultant that is helping us with those different study areas. As those opportunities come up for other, public engagement, we'll let you know when those are in case you'd like to attend. Hope that I heard really good things about the lifetime engagement held at the school.
That was a really good meeting.
Yeah, I heard really good outcomes from that and some good conversations around that, so just trying to think of anything else that's something.
Well, the mobility project will be at CMC, they're doing a pop-up on the 6th.
On the 6th.
Yeah, so the same during the day, I think before the freight.
Oh, okay. So the consultant will be there. I didn't know about that one, so that's really great to know. So the 6th, is there, and we can talk a little bit more about that if there's any opportunity for them. the consultant, I'm sure will be coming back for an audience with the Board of County Commissioner when we get close
Planning
to the.
commission, I'm sure, yeah.
And so we'll make sure the planning commission is part of that discussion as well. And then as you all know, Dave, to give you a heads up too, there's gonna be a board training on the 31st on Friday from DOLA, Department of Local Affairs, is going to do land use and the public process. And really important to either attend, it'll be, you can use the Zoom link or come in person on the 31st for that training, but it's a really, really important, particularly to understand how the public process works around public hearings. And just a welcome to Dave. I see we have another new member of our planning commission, Ryan Hill. I don't see him on right now. But Dave and Ryan, and if there's any members, other members, if you need those business cards, remember if constituents are asking you at the grocery store about upcoming applications or things that you're going to hear as the planning commission, we've provided you with a business card to give them, communicating how important their input and participation is. But that you have to, they can receive information from staff that don't have engagement with any constituents about any upcoming or pending applications. So we just wanna let you know that ahead of time, and we'll really dive into that with DOLA on the 31st about the ex parte, or about ex parte communication and the public hearing process. So if between here and there, you're asking me questions about any land use matters, we will get you those business cards. Also, the land development code, we'll get you a hard copy of that. We'll also send you an email if we haven't already about where to find the land development code online.
Yeah.
So, and the comprehensive plan. Those are two documents that it'll be important for everyone to become familiar with. And so Dave, just to update you, we are getting ready to update that master plan. By statute, we're encouraged to do it every 10 years, if not sooner. And we are excited to be getting ready to update our master plan. So it's a great time to be part of the planning commission because this is one of the most critical pieces that a planning commission does for a community. So super excited about that. And I think I went on long enough to give Heather time to
Thank you
relax,
guys,
so
sorry.
no worries, we understand how it goes.
And we now have 2 Daves, so that could get a little bit confusing.
Oh, so I was talking to Dave Durridge
You might,
about being new to the planning commission. David Clark Barrow has been a regular member, so I'm talking to everyone, but I think we'll probably have to start saying maybe David C and David J.
you might make mention about the hearing our
Yes.
next session. Once again, I will be absent,
Okay.
just to make sure we are quorum.
Very good. So we do have we have a big public hearing coming on February 10th for a major subdivision planned unit development. We will also be working on the sign code. So just to remind everyone, what we've decided to do with the sign code, great feedback and information that we received. It has been noticed for February 10th for public hearing, but what we would suggest based on what we heard is that we go ahead and open up the public hearing on the 10th for the sign code, but we continue it to the 24th and use that as a work session on the code before we're ready for final draft. So I think the other thing that I would like to really impress on everyone is I would love to start 2025 with full in-person attendance for public hearings. So on February 10th, you will have an applicant before you, a private developer with planned unit development and concurrent major subdivision. And so what staff would like to open for discussion or see if I can get support from the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners is in-person attendance for public hearings. It makes it just a little bit smoother for process and procedures, as well as giving the applicant kind of our all of us present during their hearing.
So are you saying for the planning commission in person or anybody participating in person?
So I was going to ask the
commissioners.
planning commission and the board of county commissioners for their thoughts on being present for public hearings. And just kind of, it just a little easier to maintain process when we're all in public and hear each other's input.
I personally have a tremendous problem. I'm
Okay.
gone 10, 12 days out of every month and taking care of 291-year-old parents in Illinois, so there's no way I could possibly do that,
Okay.
so.
So I understand there could be exceptions, and I think work session topics are a little bit easier when we're doing hybrid, but for public hearings, if that falls on that, I could understand where that would be difficult. So if not foreseeing, maybe obligations like that, does it sound like maybe something that would be doable, unless you have, and certainly, grace for situations such as that?
In the recent past, we've had a couple of hearings where we've only had a couple of commissioners in person, and it really does make a difference.
Mhm.
Both from a deliberation phase, an input phase, but also for the applicant. It's much nicer when everybody's across the table. That really, really does help. So if at all possible, and I'm certainly guilty too, but if at all possible in person, makes it a much better process.
Agree.
Any other comments? Anyone else? Okay, so it sounds like if at all possible, not foreseeing certainly other obligations that take you in other directions that are understandable, but maybe best effort to be in person for public hearings. That's great.
Heather, I'll let you take over, but we had added to the agenda tonight, the commission positions.
Okay.
So I'll let you take over from that, but that would be the next thing we have.
Okay. Well, I guess we have commission positions. Sure. You're just saying like a,
Just chair, vice chair, and
got
secretary.
it, okay.
And you've already been nominated.
And I nominated you to continue as chair. I would be happy to stay as vice chair unless someone else would like to take the position, because my business will be doing a lot of travel this year. I won't be here for every single meeting, but I can continue in a role that, if you guys are comfortable with that.
Fine with me.
Do we have to second your nomination?
Yeah,
Or
I'm
is
just
it
gonna make
ju-
a motion and then,
Just make a motion for everybody.
I'll make a motion.
Dave, would you be interested in continuing as secretary?
Yes, I'm happy to continue as secretary. You could probably hear I got baby in the background, so I'm on a lot of baby duty, but yeah, I'm happy to continue in that role.
Now you make a motion if you want.
I make a motion to nominate everybody in the positions that they already wanna be in. Is that,
Already-
I don't know.
already existed.
Currently
current.
sitting in.
Okay, let me just say second.
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody else interested in? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, we jump into the building height code amendment.
Awesome, so tonight what we were hoping to do, I'm gonna talk on a couple of these, by a very high level, and Melissa's going to, help me as well. So what we wanted to do was bring forth, to the planning commission and the board, this code amendments that we want to work on and that think that there's a need to work on this first quarter, probably going into the beginning of the second quarter. So as you all know, we're in the midst of the sign moratorium, and Melissa is working on revamping the sign code. So that isn't on the list, but something that we're working on. And then within the height for definition as it occurs in the land development code is the average of the natural occurring grade prior to construction and the furthest most projection of the roof. And I will tell you that this has been problematic to find compliance with at times. We're seeing a lot of development that is really reaching that max, and we're spending a lot of time determining what is the average of the natural occurring grade prior to construction and then being able to confirm that at the framing inspection. So what we'd like to do, this is kind of just housekeeping, and as we're seeing a lot of development coming in that is really kind of maximizing height, we'd like to do it from finished grade. So it's easier for us to determine that for compliance at framing than it is to try to determine how the grade was affected during the construction and determine where that point is. So what the requirement is when, typically like with a setback, our office policy is if you're gonna be within 2 feet of a setback, or if you're going to be within 2 feet of the maximum allowable height, we want it field verified through the construction. So if it is, we want it field verified before the pour of the footer, if it is a side or street or rear setback. But if it is a height requirement, then we want either an engineer or surveyor to verify height at the framing inspection and submit that with the framing, the building through the inspections of the building permit. So we ask for it at framing. But I will tell you that we have spent kind of back and forth on this on several different occasions, and in most codes you're gonna see it from finished grade. And so it's just kind of a housekeeping item. So any questions, concerns about that, we're gonna just model it after what you're gonna see in most codes. A lot of codes don't take it prior to construction.
So what happens if somebody tries to build a mound,
And
artificial mound?
that's a good question. We can put that in there, that it can't be artificially.
It has it,
does say
the
that,
grade
yeah.
shall not be artificially changed solely to affect the building height measurement.
Okay.
Well, and typically here, where you would find that is building on a slope,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Down by
Building on a
Riley,
45
that's
degree
kind of my
slope,
concern.
and it would be in the center, but they've raised that plane.
Yep.
I have a similar question or comment. How do you define finished grade? Because houses have on a slope, a walkout basement. So the walkout basement isn't necessarily the finished grade, it's the main grade or the garage level or front door level.
Right, and I think that's why we wanna give an average, to account for walkouts and, and I think we have one definition that shows it at the base of the structure. And so, but I would love, my engineers on my planning commission to, when we're ready for that final definition of height, to run it past both of you and get your thoughts and input. So it's just that we're having a hard time with the prior to construction aspect of it.
So could you just say from base of footer to the top of the structure? I mean, unless somebody's building a really giant basement.
Well, in the base of the footer might be a little problematic from a basement perspective.
But I mean, nobody's going further, or you could, I don't know, top of footer, I don't know, whatever somewhere in there that is from the entire structure.
Right.
That would include any potential mound building or whatever, that it still limits the overall height of the
Sure.
envelope of the entire building.
That would be up to the engineers. I mean, the footer for our house is 8 feet below grade. So I don't know how you define that though.
I mean, that
We
would
should
be in the
certainly try to define
plans,
it.
that would be submitted, and, I mean,
So I didn't wanna solve this tonight, like all of these, I'm not looking to
Just, yeah.
solve tonight, I'm just
Sounds like
saying that.
that's the question though.
Right. And so what we would do is come out with a definition of, and then we would email it out to you in our report, but this is where we've landed, and take feedback and then we can fine tune it. But I don't think that, it just doesn't quite have, yes, it has some complexity to it, but it's not quite, it's a little more of a housekeeping item.
Yeah, and we are not the first communities to do this, so it's like somebody already has that.
So as another consideration, just looking at the proposed definition, food for thought for the engineers, would be, I understand roof line, but what
You
about
have
people, projections above the roof line? They could be cell towers, they could be,
I think it talks about satellite attachments or satellite dish attachments on here.
I was just reading that proposed definition and kind of
Okay,
left it out.
It says roof structure, which is,
Would be inclusive of any,
wouldn't
so,
be telecommunication equipment.
but we could say the furthest projection,
Yeah, some
the
provision
highest,
for that.
but yeah, we would be happy, I guess we did increase a proposed, definition, and so we could certainly send that out and, just wordsmith it, so I think what we'll do is just send this out kind of with.
Microphone
Television.
Those are exceptions to the zoning, right, that they could make?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Right.
They can be granted, it's just, I'm saying that
Okay.
in general, if we're gonna make it for each house, that would be a concern.
No, I think you're absolutely right, I think that's a great point. And so, we could fine tune this, proposed definition just a bit, send it out, and then bring it back in when we kind of piggyback it on to one of the other items that we have. And, but it is something that we feel like we need to give a little bit more clarity to as how building sites are becoming a little more challenging as well. Some of our more buildable lots are not as available anymore.
Yeah, the concern I have is obviously this place is for view.
Yeah,
And so, if you've got a tower or something like that, you're kind of screwing.
I thought it was for the food, but
No, it's for the view.
Well, and that's a little tough only because some of the things that you're suggesting don't happen until after construction.
That's correct.
So I don't know how you allow for that.
and the next item, if that's okay if we move on, is minor subdivision. So in some codes, you will find, a process where you can divide, townhomes, attached townhomes, duplexes, other types of housing units, and our code simply just doesn't have this ability to do a minor subdivision in this, type of situation. However, again, it is a model code that you can find in lots of other codes. And as we are starting to see the desire to increase densities, to a lot of performers are increasing densities, as well as it's a way to achieve affordable housing units, we just want to create a pathway forward for the possible subdivision of those types of housing units. So, wanna make sure that that sounds reasonable to everyone. And then I'll let Melissa, any questions about that before I turn it over? If somebody wanted to get in.
so what you're saying is you're just proposing that would be a potential thing that you're gonna draft regulations on.
Correct, we're gonna add in I think the Eagle Code refers to it as like a minor type A. So we have the regular minor subdivision where we're doing divisions of land. And then we have a different type of minor subdivision where we're able to subdivide those attached housing units.
Okay.
Cause for example, they don't have setbacks, right, cause the wall is,
It's a permanent.
sometimes
wall,
they
yeah.
build them and then put the lot line in, so there's certain instead of trying to build on the lot line. So there's a little bit of complexity and nuance to attached units that we don't allow for right now in our code.
Okay, and that's for units that are currently attached units, like a duplex,
Yeah.
not if it's a single family residence that you turn into 2 units,
Well,
or it could be.
if you took a single family home and changed the structure of it into a duplex, then.
Right,
Right, I mean,
But then it's a duplex that you're subdividing.
but yeah.
So it's still the same, but yeah.
okay. Okay, so not necessarily for existing, but.
Well, you wouldn't do it before you changed that single family into a duplex.
Okay,
Right, this would be eligible for existing attached townhomes, any of those attached dwelling.
Attached
Structures.
residential units.
okay.
Yeah, they would have to be,
Yeah, and then propose, like you'll see next, our next meeting. So this, sometimes it can be done so that that they lease sort of, or they have co-ownership of the land, and the structure is separate, and they're two separate things. And then sometimes you do it as two separate lots. And so somebody buys each lot. And that's what we're wanting to allow for, is the two separate legal descriptions.
Okay, got it.
and then I think the other items, so we've got the sign code, the building height, and the minor subdivision. And we have one other item, and I'm gonna let Melissa kind of talk about the why and what we're looking at around camping.
Yeah, so we are looking at our camping code. As you all know, there's more and more people camping in dispersed locations throughout the county and other counties. And so we were approached by, I left out the word property, but property owners who are interested in maybe a type of development, camping, group camping, that doesn't quite match our regulations. And so we're still kind of working with that property owner and what those options are. But it really opened up some of the conversation about primitive. The state defines primitive, semi-primitive, semi-developed, they have developed, and then they have modern. And so we kind of cover two or three of those categories, but there's a couple of categories that we don't allow for. And so what we did is we engaged some of our stakeholders, our partners that are dealing with these same issues, and I listed who those are. And it was an interesting conversation, and because there's just so many more people out and about, as you all know. And so, how do we really address the impacts that we're seeing? And so that's some of the conversation. And so we are in the process of kind of evaluating our current regulations, looking at what other people are doing, other agencies are doing, and then wanting to come back to you with some recommendations. And honestly, that might be a very small change to what we have, and it might be larger, and we don't know right now. But is that a fair assessment or summary, Ann?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, any questions or thoughts about that?
So that's something you'll have a proposal for,
We will,
Okay.
we'll have there's a couple of areas in our code that address camping in different ways.
but not on private property per se and semi-private.
Right, we
Okay.
do have a group camp right now, we have an RV parking and camping. So those are kind of the two ways that we handle it, there's some regulations for private, if it's just your land.
Mhm.
So kind of looking at all of that in the spectrum of what's possible and maybe what's really needed to address some of these issues. So, any thoughts or ideas about that right now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've always, over all the years, I feel like there's been a lot of people who are like, what would you do this under? And it doesn't quite fit, so it makes sense to be addressing.
Can I ask what the example is? I mean, obviously someone was approached about this, right? So they're wanting campers on their private properties or,
Yeah,
okay,
so it's looking at group camping,
okay,
maybe at a level of density, cause right now we do 5 units per acre.
okay,
And maybe it needs to be a little more dense than that, maybe not. Looking at some of the facilities that need to be provided for that type of camping. Human waste, waste in general, looking at issues of access, you know, should we get more primitive, you know, access becomes a bigger deal, I mean, so does human waste,
Mhm.
just
The big
conversation,
one.
yeah.
Does it span all the zones?
No, it doesn't, and Ann and Cece are better at like what zone districts we're talking about.
So I do think that what we would look at first are the zone districts that support our existing use of RV park and campground. And that density is 25 campsites per acre. But you know, we're gonna be looking at recreational, ag forestry, are probably our big two, that we would be considering. But where we would back up with the use is identifying where group camp is allowed, where RV parks and campgrounds are allowed. So where are those like kind of similar uses that may not completely maybe meet a newer trend or a new way of use into our zoning code. But yeah, I don't foresee that we would be adding this in urban residential. You know, we're not gonna be adding it into industrial mining, we're not gonna be adding it into, so we would look at kind of where are, you know, we'd look at the definitions of each of the zone districts and find the ones that are more conducive, and then kind of look where do we already allow these uses. You know, group camps are allowed in backcountry, well, you know, it's a good, you know, we've got a couple different models that have been shared with us. And ways that it's handled in other communities, and you know, we always go and study other codes first that already have these uses. How are they managing it, where is it allowed? And then we, you know, reach out to them and kind of find out lessons learned and how things are being managed there. And then, as Melissa said, you know, we had a really great opportunity to talk with our partners, our public land partners, and really they were, you know, brought in all kinds of things that we hadn't thought about. So we also wanna think about, you know, we are also thinking about increasing use. So what does that mean? What's sustainable? What makes sense? You know, any of you that participated in backcountry, you know, it took a lot of time for us to determine what's sustainable, what makes sense, and you know, what kind of densities. But in the interim, we do still have, you know, the group camp, which does allow that 5 units per acre, and the RV park, the standards associated with campgrounds and RV park are, you know, it's just a completely different model. And those standards are pretty onerous for, you know, more of what we see in camping areas now, private campgrounds. So we just wanna make sure that our code is up to date and the needs are met.
Alright.
So what our hope tonight was, and great to let you guys out a little early, cause I know on the 10th, it's not gonna be quite that case. Was just, we like to make sure we have buy-in from the Board of County Commissioners and the Planning Commission on the scope of work and the code amendments that we're working on right now. And that they make sense to you all, and that basically looking for a thumbs up to proceed with what we're working on.
I had one very basic question, going back to point number 1, the building height code amendment. There's no suggestion of changing that overall building height, it's only measurement from grade and defining that. Okay, just interesting, wanted to make sure.
I would mention kind of in the same vein, I know Heather and Howard probably recall, I think just about the time I joined the department, I think there was some discussion on ridgeline development. And I don't know, you know, I think height may open up a conversation about, do we need to look, we've got the scenic conservation overlay that protects watershed. But I certainly noticed as I was out and about, a lot of tending a new interest in ridgeline development. So don't know if that's something that has any concern for the planning commission or the board, but height could lead into discussions around that, so you may want to think that through. There was some traction at one point on looking at limiting ridgeline development, so think about that. That would be the only, I think, other area around height. is, is there any desire or interest in, visual impacts beyond just, making a clear interpretation of height, but no suggestion that we should be increasing that. It's 35
Right.
in most all zone districts.
And requires verification if it's within 2 feet of that.
Yeah, and we do that with all,
That's residential and commercial.
yes, yep. You're gonna need a variance to exceed that in other instances, and there's other areas of the county that, the airport, the APO, the airport, protection overlay has some other, components to it too. So height is a bit regulated, there's some exceptions that Melissa listed in her report, as well as we've got, some further restrictions, under the APO, but not suggesting we should exceed the height.
Thank you for the clarification.
Right, and as you know, the sign code is looking to really reduce height in those areas. So if there's any other kind of burning areas of concern for the planning commission or the board that you would like us to look at, maybe maybe in that second or third quarter, we may have some capacity. However, we do anticipate a pretty heavy lift with the One Community project, and so we may not have a whole lot of bandwidth for anything beyond that this year as far as code amendments, unless there was something that you all felt was kind of a burning need for us to investigate and look into. So,
Yeah, for me, it's identifying things that come out of the comp plan process, you know, I think there's gonna be things that come out of that become more urgent than we think they need to, but I think we need to go through that process first and kind of identify those as a community, and then, hopefully that makes it more third quarter.
It's a good way to look at it, kind of limit our scope too.
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, I think that would be a much more fluid, effective way to address it. It looks like we have a question.
Yes, and recently there's been more dialogue about tiny houses. Is that something that you're addressing?
So tiny homes are not something, right now, the code requires minimum square footage of 600 square feet. Tiny homes don't typically fall into, fall well under that category. They're typically in the kind of 300 square feet. However, through like a commercial use, like an RV park, that would, I guess similar to the one that we already have within city limits, would be something that could be entertained through a commercial use. But as far as allowing them for primary dwelling units or accessory dwelling units, they don't meet the minimum occupied space for residential use under the Land Development Code. And I guess the other thing, David, that is kind of a little bit of the struggle around, and I do think the state of Colorado has come in and picked up some of these inspections because they don't always meet a building code. And so that would be the other kind of struggle around tiny homes, unless they were a temporarily occupied housing unit under like an RV park. So right now where our code is kind of at is they don't meet the minimum square footage, and they haven't ran across one yet that meets the building code. So we don't see them as a use for residential, unless they would be a temporary occupied unit in like a RV park.
Well, and most also wanna keep them mobile, which doesn't also meet that code requirement.
Right, they have to
As
be on
long
a
as,
foundation.
if they're not made permanent by putting on a foundation and meeting building code, and then square footage, so you don't see them very often.
They are not currently permissible as a primary residence.
By county, and that's been our position out here in Twin Lakes, but we've had people challenging us and saying, well, the state code supersedes the county code, and so I'm just really concerned about that attitude and how we
Yeah,
make sure
David,
that.
and if you ever want us to provide you that, what the local regulation is around that, we'd be happy to give you an interpretation from the department, so if that helps, whether that's like a homeowners association or, you know, however we can support. But the state has stepped in and is doing inspections like manufactured houses on them, but it's up to the local jurisdiction, whether or not they're allowable as primary, dwelling units.
Very good. I'm happy to hear all that. Thank you.
Great. Any other zoning, land use, what's happening, questions for staff?
Yeah, I have a separate question. I was curious
Uh-oh.
if there was any,
It's not light
how many
reflections.
applications came in for the affordable housing project?
That's a great question. Jackie's not with us, but I believe that we got 21.
21, cause the last time I think was 2.
Yeah,
Was it? Okay.
21, housing applications came in for the, the TIN 2 housing project, or the housing at TIN 2 project.
Wasn't
So
that
that's great.
21 qualified applications, like,
21 with pre-qualified, loan pre-qual letters.
which is enough to do the lottery, that's one.
Yeah, so really, and everybody that participated in the lottery was approved. So 21 qualified buyers and 21 have been approved.
Fantastic.
So really exciting.
I missed it in updates and I don't think we covered this time. Are there any short-term licenses available in the county currently?
19.
19? Your number was right, that's great.
Yeah. So, and we think that, it took a while, but Cece's gotten through the renewal period with everybody that, was looking to renew this year so far, so we still have 19 licenses available.
Yep.
Wow,
And Don's gonna do a compliance check. Or I think he is in the process.
that's great.
I'm sure we'll find some.
And I'm sure you did cover this already in updates before I showed up, but next week, please make sure everybody comes. I'll just reiterate that. One of those meetings, it's really important that we're all showing up.
And Tuesday night is a Spanish language event. And where is Tuesday nights held? Does anyone remember off
It's
the
in
top
the
of your head?
mountain.
Tuesday night is Full Circle.
At Full Circle.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday night is Southern, and it'll be at the Southern Fire Station. Thursday night is for in-town, and it's at Freight from 6 to 8.
Correct. And I know Cece sent out calendar invites for all of those.
Yeah, did you get those?
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
There was a before and after was.
During the day.
During the
Day,
day.
kind of a drop-in.
Yeah, it's a drop-in during the day. Stop by either there or the Silver Llama if you're out and about or wanna stop by and during the day, we'll be there as well. So,
It's gonna be a busy week next week.
Yeah, next
Yes.
week's a busy one.
we cleared our schedules and we're gonna be at all of them, or most of them.
Drinking a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right, so,
Yeah, it'll just be I think that's gonna be a great like kickoff of information and hearing what the community says, you know? I think it's gonna be a good one to be present for and absorb the feedback.
I've gotten a couple of those questionnaires already, and they are thoughtful questionnaires. They actually ask relevant questions and kind of
Basic, but like very,
basic, but lead you
Pull
into
out,
giving
yeah.
good information, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty impressed with the questionnaires.
great,
And
glad to hear that.
they're simple and quick to fill out, so.
Right, we have them in English and Spanish, they're on the website as well. Or there's drop-off boxes all over town, so if there is any group though, that if you attend one of these and you feel somebody's unrepresented and we haven't connected with them somehow, please let us know. So if you participate with any groups, Melissa and I have been really thrilled to attend other functions and find that we kind of have informal ambassadors already out there talking about it, so it was really exciting to see that. And definitely there's, it does seem like we've created a little bit of buzz, but we do wanna make sure that we're reaching
Keep it going.
everyone that we can, so if there's some way. A lot of common themes though, some real common things that we're hearing, and so we're excited to kind of share those out soon and make sure that we've got it right. So, I think that's everything we have. I just wanted to again welcome David and Ryan. Ryan's not with us this evening, but our two newest members to the planning commission. And how exciting to be joining us during a comp plan update. It's really an important time to be part of the planning commission.
It is, yeah.
Thank you all.
See you Friday.
See you Friday.
Thank you, see you Friday.
Alright, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Edwards moves to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey.
Right.